Hello, welcome to Board Game Bonkers. I'm Jay Sears and welcome to the channel if you're new. Today we're going to take a look at 10 games that are better than Snakes and Ladders. Now, Snakes and Ladders is quite a popular game back in the day, but it is considered one of the worst board games ever made, according to Board Game Geek. Now, you're not familiar with Board Game Geek. That's a website where it lists thousands of board games, and people vote on them, and then they're ranked according to those votes. And they also have a weight rating, which essentially is not how heavy the game is, but how complex the game is. Now, Snakes and Ladders is very light. I think it's got a 1.04, so the weight range is between 1 to 5, 5 being ultra complex, 1 being extremely light. So normally 1 to 1.5 is usually for children, very young children, preschoolers, children maybe up to the age of 8, etc. It varies, but that's generally a guide for you in terms of the weight. Now I'm going to go through the top 10 games that are better than Snakes and Ladders, and I've got some fond, mostly horrible memories of Snakes and Ladders, in particular with that snake where you always end up going back several spaces, which is very frustrating. But there are normally games that I try to look for in this series that are similar to those. Unfortunately, there is only one game that's similar to Snakes and Ladders. In fact, it's almost identical, but a lot better. So I've tried to look at games that have a bit of a race theme to them, because essentially Snakes and Ladders is a race, trying to get from one pole position to the other, which is the end. So he's trying to reach one end to the other, and similar to these games on his list, I'll look at that as a theme. And I haven't gone crazy with racing games either. I think there's only one on this list, and there's maybe one that you could argue isn't quite a race game as such. So let's now dive into this list, and starting with my number 10. I was hesitant in putting this on the list because I hate the original, and I don't think it's a very good game. And this is Monopoly Mario Kart. Now, let me be clear, this has significantly developed from the original. It still uses some original concept. You're going on the board, except the board is smaller, and you're landing on properties to acquire those properties. But aside from that, everything else is different. Now, sure, you're still rolling and moving, but let me just go in a bit more detail as to how this game plays out. So in Monopoly Gamer Mario Kart, what you'll be doing is you'll be moving around the board, as I explained, we're using one of the Mario Kart characters, and you'll be buying Mario Kart properties like in normal Monopoly. Now there's 2 dice in the game, but only one has numbers that lets you move. The other gives you a power-up ability. Now the power-up ability die gives you one of 6 actions. You've got like a spiny shell, which lets you target any players to drop 3 coins. You've got a green shell, which causes the next forward player from your position to drop 3 coins. You've got a lightning bolt, which causes all other players to drop 1 coin. And then you've got coins, which lets you collect up to 3 coins if you get the coin symbol. And then you've got the banana, which lets you drop a banana token on any space you travelled on after you move. And then on your next time, you can execute the respective action on each die in any order. This is a unique bit about it. Once you're passing go, so in traditional Monopoly, you just keep going round, but this will trigger a race. Now, there's 8 races, and what's better about this is there's an end goal. So rather than just rolling, moving, buying, selling properties, which goes on forever in Monopoly, this one, once you've played 8 races, it ends. So you'll be going into a race, and players will pay an entry fee, which is coins essentially, which is why you need coins. And then you'll be competing to see who can roll the highest number. So it has a lot more of a fun factor, this game. It's a lot more engaging than original Monopoly. I still don't like it as much as others, which is why it's number 10. But if you're a fan of Monopoly, you might actually enjoy this, and I highly recommend playing this than any of the older versions of Monopoly, which quite frankly are horrendous. This at least tries to fix some of the issues. Now, sure, it still has roll and move, which has almost no mitigation, and that is frustrating because it's pure luck. But this is fun. At least it tries to combat that problem by introducing lots of elements of fun that's in Mario Kart, the video game. So I definitely recommend checking this out. Let's now move into my number 9. And this is Spooky Stairs. Now, Spooky Stairs is more aimed towards younger kids, I suppose, younger children, but you can still play this as a family, and I think this would be suitable, but it is really light, and certainly you've got young kids, they might enjoy this. So what do you do in Spooky Stairs? Now, what you'll be doing every turn, players will roll an enchanted die to see how fast your character climbs the stairs. Now, if a player rolls a ghost, now what you can do is you can place that ghost piece over another player's pawn piece. And essentially that's like camel up, so you can piggyback and move together. Now, a magic magnet is on them, they just attach to one another, so it becomes one pawn and it disappears. But you've got to remember which one yours is under. All players can then transfer into another ghost if you roll the ghost symbol, which means that you can then swap and change. So you can alter positions. It's got a similar feel to some extent to Camel Up, but this is much more stripped back, much more simpler, and really that's all you're doing, trying to get to the race end, which is climbing the stairs essentially. So this is a super simple game for, I would say, preschoolers. It's really simple, just roll a die and do you want to connect to that ghost? Do you want to go solo? Obviously, you want to try and link up to other ghosts. It's their turn next, so then you can piggyback. But it's super simple. And what I like about it is you're not being penalised like Snakes and Ladders, where you have to land on a snake and you go all the way back. This is all positive, which is why I like it. That's why it's on the list. Now, let's move in to my number 8. And this is quite a bit different. I'm in two minds about adding this in, but I think because it has an educational value to it, I think it's important to add it onto the list. This is Richard Scarry's Busy Town. Now, in this game, what you'll be doing, you've got a race, you're trying to get from one end to the other. And the difference is you'll be moving depending on the objects you find. So it's a cooperative game and it's aimed towards preschoolers. And what you'll be doing is looking at objects such as trying to find flags, ladders, etc. to try and move faster to get from one end to the other. Super simple, super light. There's not much to it, but the fact that it's almost like a Where's Wally. Find this object, you can move these number of spaces. Super simple, and that's why it's aimed at preschoolers. Now let's move in to my number 7, and this certainly is more for children, perhaps 7 plus, 6 plus. So certainly it's taken a few steps up. This is Magic Maze Kids. Now it's based on the similar setup of how the original Magic Maze works, which if you're not familiar with that, you simply can't communicate and you're trying to move your pieces around to capture objects, to steal objects essentially, except you can only move your pawn depending on the movement tile that you have. Essentially you can move all pieces that one particular movement. So let me just explain a little bit better how this game works. So as a cooperative game, you're going to work together, and it takes the same mechanisms as Magic Maze, but it's much more streamlined. So everyone controls all of the heroes, okay? So you can move all of them, but you can only move them in one direction. So each player has one action direction tile essentially, and basically what you'll be doing is you'll be moving all of those pieces in that one direction. So you've got freeway in how you move those different pieces. Oh, I can move them left, so I can only move left, another player can only move them right, another player can only move them straight forward or back. So you've got to work together, and it is difficult, and especially when you compare it to the original, this is a lot easier and much simpler for children to get involved in. It's super fun. This has a nice, almost a party feel to it, and it's not a party game, but it has that sense to it. You can have a laugh, a giggle. You can get a bit frustrated as well because you're trying to get other players to move in a certain way because you want that certain piece to move there, but that player has to do it. So it's really difficult sometimes because you've got limited communication, but I definitely recommend it. It's super fun, and I think you will enjoy it with the children. Let's move into my number 6. And this is a race game. This is Monza. Highly popular for preschoolers, super simple, and it strips back all of the mechanisms and the ways the game works compared to a lot of the more complex race games, and it keeps it really simple. So essentially what you'll be doing, you'll be rolling 6 dice on your turn, and then you'll be moving the car according to the colours shown in the dice that match what's on the track. It's really that simple. So they've stripped it right back, simplified it by just concentrating on colour, which is much easier for preschoolers to recognise. So they've done a great job of that. And the cars look cool. I really like them, thick, chunky pieces. Super simple, great for preschoolers to get involved in. So let's move into our number 5 then, and this is Magic Mountain. Now, Magic Mountain, you could say, has some similarities you've got to the Spooky Stairs, except you're rolling a ball, so it's a little bit different. So this to me is just as easy, probably a little bit easier in some sense than Spooky Stairs. That's right. So in Magic Mountain, what players will be doing is you'll pull a hidden ball out of the bag, and then you'll be working together. You'll be trying to figure out, well, what's the best route to roll it down the mountain. So every piece it hits moves ahead to the next open space, and you're trying to get closer to the village. So what you're trying to do is work out as a team, right? We do that, we roll it there, we're going to hit that, that'll then move there. So you're trying to obviously get down to the village. So it has a similar feel to some sense to Spooky Stairs, except you're rolling the ball. So you're still trying to get from one end to another, and it's just quite linear in terms of the track. But I think this is quite straightforward for preschoolers. You're just rolling a ball and having a bit of fun. So I think preschoolers will enjoy this, and a lot easier than Spooky Stairs. Spooky Stairs perhaps a little bit older. I don't be comparing the games because they do have a different feel to them, but I think this one is enjoyable for preschoolers. You're just rolling a ball down a board. I think it's quite fun for them. But you might enjoy it as well as parents, especially when you've got that tactile dexterity feel to the game. But definitely check it out. Don't put your nose up to it. Let's move in to our number 4 then. So our number 4 is Snail Sprint. So as it says in the title, you'll be racing snails, and obviously you're not going that fast, you're going quite slow. Now it has a roll and move mechanism to it, so a lot of children are familiar with that. Same with Snakes and Ladders, you roll the dice and move, but it comes with a twist, in fact a couple of twists, so let me explain. So each player receives a card at the start of the game. Now it contains 3 coloured snails, and what you'll be doing is you'll be receiving points if these particular snails make it into the winner's circle. So each snail and the space is a colour, so each player will roll 2 dice. So let's just say, for example, you roll the red and the blue die. You then choose 1 die to activate. So do you move the red snail to the next blue space, or the blue snail to the next red space? So you're going to make that decision, and the crux of the game really is deciding on this or that each turn. And I like that because it introduces decision making for young children, and I think this might be okay perhaps for ages 6 plus. I think this will be fine. Maybe age 5 you'll be able to play this as well. It's fairly straightforward, and you're simply just having a decision to move that or to move this. So I like that. I like they've simplified it, and I think this is fun. I think they've done a good job at this because you're simply betting, but you're doing it in a fun way. So there's no money, there's no coins, and you just want your snail to win, all 3 to get into the winner's circle. Fun, nice little game this. I definitely recommend checking out. So let's move in to our number 3. So we're getting up in a little bit more complexity with this one. This is Ticket to Ride First Journey. So this is definitely aimed towards kids, and is definitely trying to make it accessible to bridge that gap for Ticket to Ride, which is a popular family game. Now, I'm not a fan of Ticket to Ride, but I think they've done a good job with this one. And although it's not technically a race game, you are still racing to build your network from one city to another. So technically you are. So what do you do in Ticket to Ride? Well, it uses the similar system as normal Ticket to Ride. You'll be collecting train cards, and then you'll be clearing routes in the map, and you'll be trying to connect the cities, showing your tickets. So on your turn, you'll either draw 2 train cards, or you'll discard train cards to claim that route between 2 cities. So for that option, what you'll be doing is discarding the cards matching the colour and the number of spaces on that route. So for example, 2 yellow cards for 2 yellow route pieces to place down. It's as simple as that. So they streamlined it a little bit, but it's much more accessible, and it's got a good step up to then start playing the original Ticket to Ride. Definitely recommend if you like that game, you want your kids to get involved in it. Like I said, I'm not a huge fan of Ticket Ride, but I think they've done a good job to this. Just strip back a couple of things, but still keep the core mechanisms going that's in the original. So let's now move in to our next one. This is number 2. And this, as I said at the start, this is the only game that is almost identical to Snakes and Ladders, except this is done 100 times better, and it's in a cooperative way. So let me explain. This is Mole Rats in Space. So it sounds completely different and it plays very similar, except there's quite a few differences. It makes it 100 times better. So let me just explain. So in this game, it's cooperative, and on your turn, you'll be carrying out the instructions on the card that's in front of you. So you've got this card. So I might say perhaps moving yourself or your teammates, maybe moving one or more snakes that are there, or adding new snakes to the board. Now, if you land on the bottom of a ladder and the character or snake advances one level towards the escape pod, you can then land on a shuttle slide and then shoot up. And you can descend a level or out of space, and then in case you're going to die, you get out of space. Now, if you land on a snake, you bit. Okay, you've got to return back to starting location. So is that similar? Yes, there's some sense to original Snakes and Ladders if you're not going down the snake. If you get bit a second time, you die. If you run out of cards, you die. Let a snake use escape pod, you die. So there's lots of ways to die. And you're thinking, well, is this possible to even win? Well, yes, you're working together as a team. So you're figuring out, well, what do we do? So I like that you're working together rather than just against one another. So you're trying to work a way of getting from A to B with the least amount of deaths and damage caused. It's got a lot bit more thinking to this, and certainly you haven't got that roll, move, and hope for the best. This has got a lot more planning, a lot more thinking, and talking and working together as a team, and I like that. That's why it makes the game a lot better than Snakes and Ladders. You just roll and hope that you get there before anyone else. No, you've got to figure out, well, do we put the snake there? Where do we put it? We need to get here, so we need to figure out how we're going to do that. Yeah, sure, you've still got a little bit of luck to it, but there's a little bit more thinkiness, and you're kind of instruction on a card rather than rolling a bunch of dice to hope for the best to move from one space to another. So I like that. I like it done differently. Fantastic. So let's move into our number one. And this is highly popular. People do enjoy it. This is Outfoxed. Outfoxed is highly popular. It's a very simple, straightforward game that does a good job. And it's not technically a race game, well, it is to some extent, but let me just explain. So in this game, you'll be working together as a team cooperatively, and you're going to move around the board to get clues. And then be using the evidence scanner to rule out suspects and figure out where there's clues and what they mean. So at the beginning of the game, what you do is you randomly select the thief card, you stick it into the clue card device that's there, you then take turns rolling 3 dice on your turn, and then you'll either reveal more suspect cards or travel to these different spots around the board to collect clues. Now when you place clues on top of the card and slide it open, now you either see a white or green dot. Now if it's green dot, then you know the thief has those characteristics. So you're trying to figure out who the thief is and narrow it down. So there's a bit of deduction in this game. So I really like this. And you've got a fox as well. You're trying to make sure you get there before the fox as well. So I like that. You're trying to figure out as quickly as you can. So I like there's a race to some extent, but except that you're finding clues and you're figuring out who the culprit is. I like that. And it gets people to work together. And that's what you probably see about this list. There's lots of games that are cooperative, working together, and that is good for children because it teaches them to communicate. It teaches them to share ideas, and it teaches them to problem solve together. It's clear that they're working towards building skills in children and thinking and developing their thinking skills. I like that. And I think you should at least try some of these games out if you have children. I understand that perhaps some of these are not suitable for adults, and certainly you won't want to be playing them, but you might with your children. A couple of them I would recommend. I think some of these could be a family game for your game evening. Now, I hope you've enjoyed this, and if you're someone who is new, perhaps you just clicked on this video, then please do consider subscribing to the channel and consider giving this video a thumbs up as well. And please do check out our other videos by going to a playlist. We have lots of top 6s, top 10s, and other better than videos looking at 10 board games better than classics. My name's Jay Sears. Until next time, take care. This is Bonkers.